In today's video, we are going to begin decorating the outside of our album cover. I'm going to set this part aside for now. I have my circular piece, I've got my little ring, and I have my long strip like this. Now I have already curved my piece into a circular shape. If you have not done this yet, all you have to do is to slowly start curving your piece until it starts to bend. Then I met my two pieces here in the center. Actually, I made it a little bit smaller. Then I put my ring around it like this. And then I pulled these two pieces to where they belong. And I left this sit overnight, so it is molded to that shape already. I am going to be taking this apart for now, and I'm going to start to decorate this with some ribbon, and I'm going to put some magnets on it for a closure as well. So I have two magnets and two pieces of ribbon. Now I am using this graphic 45 ribbon. I'm going to be using the wide one. My ribbon is about 3/4 of an inch wide, so you want this to be anywhere from 3/4 to about an inch. You don't want it to be any larger than an inch because this is an inch wide. I have one piece that is cut to 9 inches and one piece that's cut to 11 inches. I'm going to start with my 9-inch piece, but I'm going to set this aside for now. And then I have one piece of my black cardstock, and it is 11 inches long, and it's just a little bit under 1 inch because I'm going to be putting this on the inside here. I don't want it to be exactly 1 inch because then I have to fight to make sure that it is perfectly lined up. So I've just cut it a little bit smaller. Now I am going to take this and I'm going to put this back together. And I'm going to put my ring up here a little bit towards the top. Not that it matters at this point, but I'm going to be taking my adhesive. I'm going to cover one entire side of this entire piece, and I'm going to be lining the inside first. Once my piece is covered with adhesive, I'm going to lay it in here. There is going to be an overlap, and I do not want to start it where that seam is. So I'm going to bring mine in here. And I'm just going to start by setting this down inside of here, like this. And then I'm just going to go ahead and press this down around the entire piece so that it is adhered down to the inside of that chipboard. Now I'm going to take some adhesive here. Where these pieces overlap, I'm just going to apply some adhesive, and then I'm going to use my fingers to press this down into those cracks to try to give that a little bit of a seal before I decorate the outside piece. While I wait for this to dry, I'm going to start on my first piece with the ribbon. I have my 9-inch piece here. I'm going to be using double-sided tape. I don't have Fabri-Tac, it's what I would normally use here. I'm going to be placing a magnet. So I'm first just going to cut a piece here and using my grid here. It's about 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to save about 3/4 of an inch there from the end, and I'm going to place my double-sided tape here and remove my backing. Once I have my adhesive on, I will go ahead and apply my magnet here. Then I'm going to put more adhesive on the end here, and I'm going to flip this over to cover my magnet. Now my magnet is completely wrapped in here, and I want to make sure that this does not come out. So if you're using something that's not strong enough, then you need to make sure that you use a better adhesive. I would normally use Fabri-Tac, but I don't have any, so I'm using this double-sided tape, and I'm hopeful that it will hold up. If it doesn't, I'll have to get Fabri-Tac and redo it. Now taking the side with the magnet, you want to make sure that it is not on the side with the piece where the piece meets. I'm going to set this so that the magnetic piece is on the chipboard and that this either is meeting the edge or just slightly above the edge. For this one, I'm going to take my magnet and place it on top of the one that's already on there. I'm going to take a piece of my double-sided tape and apply it to my chipboard here. And then I'm going to remove that and position my piece here. And then remove this so that the magnet is in that correct position. Now I want it to be kind of in the center. We don't want it to be too far down because then it'll be harder to cover. So that's why I did have my piece so that it was up a little tiny bit, just so that it was more towards the center. Now I'm going to be using my 11-inch piece of ribbon here to cover this entire piece. But I need to place this back on here first. I need to attach this piece over here first. So to do that, I am going to make sure that it is attached to the magnet. I'm going to hold it here with my thumb, and then I'm going to flip this over. There's going to be a loop so that there's a little bit of extra here. I'm going to take another piece of my double-sided tape and going to bring it across in the center, which means it's going to be on this here. Now I'm going to remove my double-sided tape here, loop this over, and attach it. Now I'm going to take this off and let this hang down here. So now what I'm going to do is take my 11-inch ribbon and I'm going to run my 11-inch ribbon around here to cover the entire thing. I have my double-sided tape on. I'm going to start here. I've only removed part of the backing to make it a little bit easier for me to manage this strip. And I'm placing this right in the center of that piece. And then I'm going to very carefully go around and try to keep this as straight and centered as I can. Now I'm at my magnet on the other side, so I'm going to stop here for a second and press this down to make sure it's completely covered. I'll remove the rest of my backing and I'm going to keep wrapping this ribbon around. If you have any loose ends like I do, you can trim them off. And now the last thing we have is this piece here that we are going to need to attach. And you can decide where you like the look of this. If you like it all the way flush with the top, I'm going to have mine down just slightly. So what I'm going to do with this piece, I'm going to use adhesive on the inner part of the ring, and then I'm going to apply that down on top of my piece. Now that I have my ring on, I'm going to go ahead and stretch my ribbon over here. And I want there to be a loop on the one side. So I'm going to hold this tighter here, and I'm going to be placing this on here. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to apply my adhesive to my ribbon just in that center section where my piece is going to go. Now, keeping my ribbon tight across here, I've just got it tight. I'm holding it down with my finger here. I'm going to take this and I'm going to set it right on top of that piece where it should go, and hopefully that will line up, or that will grab the back of that. Perfect. And then I can come back here and press this down. So I need to now attach this here. I wasn't thinking about this. I was just thinking about attaching it here with the magnet, but if I leave it like this, it will flop around and I don't like that. So what I'm going to do, instead of using a second set of magnets, now you could put magnets here and then this whole entire thing would come up. But what I'm going to do is just add some adhesive to the center so that it'll be adhered down here. This will still come off. It'll still open. It just won't have this loop like this. It'll just be in the center here. And I need to line this up so that it lines up correctly here. And about here, so I've got where my ribbon needs to go. Right about there. Now my adhesive is on. I've got the backing off of my double-sided tape, so I'm just going to hold that in place and carefully press this down. So now I can lift this up and it's attached there, and it'll close with the magnet there. And I'm going to start with these 4 pieces and this 12 by 12 paper. Now I'm going to be using this paper to cover these pieces, but I'm going to flip it over to this side and I'm going to be saving this side. I'm going to fussy cut these flowers. I'm going to start with this piece. The bottom piece is a little bit thinner down here. So I'm going to be adhering this so the pieces are, the black side is face down, and I'm going to start with this one first and I'm going to adhere it down here. Once I have my adhesive on, I am just lining up the edge of my piece with the left edge of the paper and the bottom edge with the bottom part of the paper, not counting this piece that tells you the name of the collection and the paper. Now I'm going to be using scissors. You can use a craft knife here, and I'm going to be fussy cutting this piece out. But I'm also going to be adding these pieces here and here, and this piece here. I'm going to leave just a small space between my pieces, that way I can get my scissors in between. Now once all of my pieces are on, I'm going to take my fussy cutting scissors and I'm going to cut around all of these pieces, and I'm going to be very careful with this middle piece. I'm not going to cut through it because I'm going to use a circle out of this piece for that lens cover that we just made. This is what my pieces look like when they are done being covered. They're white on the back and the paper is completely covering the black side of the paper. I've got my circular piece here that I am going to be placing here. So I've got it like this. I'm going to take my little lens cover, flip this over on the back side, and I'm just going to trace around the edges here and I'm going to cut this out. So I have that cover for this side where the ribbon is on the underneath. But then I'm going to be adhering this straight down and covering that ribbon. Once I have this covered, I'm going to just go ahead and close this back up and set it back to the side. And now I'm going to bring in my cover. So I chose to keep the base of the camera black, and these pieces I'm going to have colored. You could have done the opposite and left these pieces plain and put the decorative paper on the front of the camera if you chose to do that. But I'm going to be doing it this direction so that the outline is in black. Now I'm just going to set these pieces on here. You'll see the score lines on the cover like this. And I am going to just adhere these pieces straight down to my cover exactly where you see those score lines on the front of the cover. I have all of my pieces adhered down, so next I'm going to be working on cutting the pieces for my sides. I have this paper again, so first from down, this one's here, from here, this one is cut to 2 1/4 by 4 1/4. It's going to go here on the left side spine. Then the second piece is from down here, and it was the corner this way, and this is cut to 2 1/8 by 4 1/4, and I'm going to adhere this one down here on this side. Now once my sides are on, I'm going to come to the back. So for this piece, I have cut from here. So I'm going to be using the back side of this paper, but I've cut to 4 3/4 by 8 inches. And I'm going to be flipping this over. I used my corner rounder on my corners, and I'm going to place this here on the back cover. Once my back is covered, I'm going to now flip over to the front side and start adding some additional elements. I've got these two pieces. I'm going to layer them up together, and then I'm going to place them here on this. Then I'm going to apply my adhesive around the ring here, and I'm going to set this down here. And I'm going to make sure that this is even with the center of these pieces. I went ahead and cut a circle. I just traced my tape. I've cut it from this paper here all the way as far down as I could get it to go. That way I can still fussy cut from this. And I am going to adhere this down to my background first, and then I'm going to layer up some of those ephemera pieces. Next, I have my little film strip, and I've taken that piece. So when we cut the back piece here, there was a piece up here on the top corner, and I've just framed the flowers there. I've added a piece of chipboard to the back of it, and I am going to be placing this in here next. And I think I'm going to place it all the way at the top and then at an angle. I'm not going to adhere anything down yet. I have my little Polaroid frame. I've put a little bit of chipboard on the back side, and I'm going to layer that in here also at an angle. Next, I have the woman with her camera. If you're giving this to a man, you can switch this out to an image of a man, whatever you prefer. I did put some chipboard on the back of this, and I'm going to position this in here how I like it. I have this piece, I'm going to go ahead like this to see where I like this. I'm going to use this as the curve, and I'm going to trim this. That way it will follow the curve of this piece down here, and I may need to trim it some more so it's not quite so large on her. I decided not to include the little camera piece, so here is my finished result. So I just have all of my pieces layered up here. Now, if you wanted to add a piece of acetate or vellum around here, you could, but I'm going to leave mine just like this. You could also add an image here if you wanted to. You could fussy cut a piece, or you could put one of the ephemera pieces here, but I'm going to leave mine plain. And I'm going to go ahead and close this up and then start decorating the outside of the camera. Now to get started, I'm going to be fussy cutting all of these flowers first, and then I will start arranging them with some of the other ephemera pieces on the front cover. I have gone ahead and cut apart my flowers. Now I like to shape my flowers, so I cut into the petals and the pieces. I pull up on them and I like to give them some dimension. I have used my tape thing again here to round this so that I can stick this right up against the lens on the front here, and I am going to just place this where I like it. This is going to be hanging slightly over the edge here, and this one is going to be right at the edge. If it hangs over, whenever I go to open the album, it won't sit quite right, but since there is dimension already on the front cover, I can bend this up so that it will be even with that edge. Now I've cut apart the rest of my images and I'm going to layer them. I've used my piece here. Again, I've used my tape to round this. I'm going to be placing this one here. Then I've cut this piece, again, shaping these by cutting slits into them and pulling them up. I'm going to layer these over here. And then I have this flower here. Again, I've just pulled up on this middle petal and I'm going to be placing that here like this. Now I've gone ahead and taken the word photographer. This was that bottom strip of paper that we had. It's across all the different 12 by 12s and it has this photographer and it's the perfect size and it's got the little pieces here. And this is just to tell you the paper collection name. So it's on all the sheets. These stickers were too big, but I wanted to have something little here. Kind of how on my Canon camera, it says Canon on the lens cap. I want this to be here. So I'm going to go ahead and glue these down and then I will be done with my cover decorations. Here it is with all of the embellishments on. You can see that there is dimension. And then I can still take this, open this up, and then I have my little scene inside of there as well. This is it for the cover tutorial. So in the next one, we will start working on the inside pages. I'll see you in the next tutorial.